Why is filing your taxes with Free Tax USA different? Well, for starters, our premium federal...
Okay, look. I'm just going to be seeing what is like.
This is technically a part 2 to the massage parlor stories I did a while back. I figured I'd run it back as I wanted to encourage you all to treat yourself to such a service. But unfortunately, after watching these stories, this may do the complete opposite. Anyways, before we get to our 3 spa stories, here's a joke. Why did they pull a lawsuit against the spa for their wax treatment?
Why?
It was a ripoff. Get it? Never mind. Here's the animations. I recently went out of my comfort zone to get a massage. My back had been killing me for the past several weeks, and my buddy kept telling me I had to go to this particular spa in town. He hounded me about it every time I complained about my back pain. Not only was he adamant that a massage would do wonders for me physically, but he was also very persuasive with his insistence that a lot of the masseuses were super hot chicks that knew what they were doing. With that in mind, I thought that if I could get one of those nice-looking girls to put their hands on me, I wouldn't have to be worried about the awkwardness I was usually concerned with when I considered getting a massage. Unfortunately, my friend didn't let on that I needed to call ahead in order to book an appointment with a specific masseuse. I walked in at what must have been their busiest time of day. The lobby was full of people waiting. Immediately, the receptionist started crowing at me and making me feel like I'd made a mistake by coming.
We only have one therapist available for walk-ins. The wait time will be at least 45 minutes. If that doesn't work for you, then you'll have to make an appointment.
No, that's okay. I can wait. I just really need some work on my back.
All right, I'll put you on the next slot with Josephine. What kind of work do you need? I'll let her know.
The pain is really bad. Chronic, too. I guess I need the deep tissue?
Okay, and your name?
It's Gabe.
Have a seat, and Josephine will call your name when she's ready for you.
Thank you. I took the last available seat, stuck between some sweaty construction worker and an overweight secretary. I was already having my doubts about the experience. I'd just gotten yelled at for walking in, but I couldn't even leave if I wanted to. It didn't even cross my mind that the name Josephine was a little off for someone who was supposed to be a hot young girl. Not until the waiting was up and Josephine revealed herself to me. I tried not to show my disappointment on my face, but my stomach truly sank to the floor when I saw her.
Gabe?
She wasn't just old, but she wasn't even looking good for her age. She had this awful hunchback and this drooping, crooked jaw. Her head looked way too big for her body, but the glass...
Okay. Yeah. I would be like, screw it, bye. I'm walking out of the place. Not today. Like, not today.
She wore were somehow still disproportionately wide for her face. Even worse were her crusty, yellowing teeth that made it obvious she'd never been one to care too much about oral hygiene throughout her many years. But the thing that surprised me most, even more than her baggy...
What would his face be looking like that? He's like, I would probably run out and scream like, he's so ugly. Oh, dang, she really looked ugly.
Skin were her hands. They were crooked and arthritic from decades of massage.
I think she broke her hands.
People for a living, and it was honestly a wonder how in the world she was able to still do this job with her hands in such a state. We went through...
What did she put her hands in? Because did she soak it in something to make it be looking like or was she just touching like clear slime? I have no idea. She looked very crusty, musty, ugly, dusty self. She gotta get her ugly, crusty, musty, dusty self out of there. I mean, look, where is she looking at? Where is she looking at? Is she looking at the butt or what?
What I imagine is the basic small talk before a massage. It was like talking to my grandmother after avoiding her for a couple of years. Except I was half and laying face down on a table. But then she began the massage, and immediately I knew that it wasn't what I had imagined. I hadn't really had the foresight to understand what deep tissue meant, but I was learning in that moment as this sharp old woman began to dig her jagged elbows into the pressure points all over my back. I groaned and squirmed, but she was unfazed. She even put her weight on me to keep me steady. I bit my tongue and tried to bear through it, hoping that it would eventually feel good if I got through the initial shock of
Okay, because I would probably just like, bro, like speak up for yourself. Like, just not standing there like so, oh, breaking your back.
That did not work. It only got worse. At some point, it felt like she was straight up just punching me in the back like some bad CPR.
Because she is.
Then she did something I didn't know she had the agility for. She climbed up onto the table and stood on top of me, walking up and down my back and burying the heels of her feet into the notches of my spine.
Oh my god.
She then did the unthinkable and began jumping on me like I was some kind of trampoline. I could feel so many cracks in my joints, but it honestly felt more like my bones themselves were breaking.
Oh my gosh. She's such a big bag.
I thought they only did massages like this in Japan.
Why is his eyelids white? Oh no, I accidentally went too far.
Table and stood on top of me, walking up and down my back and burying the heels of her feet into the notches
You
of my
hear
spine.
that, like cracking like some, like, like that?
She then did the unthinkable and began jumping on me like I was some kind of trampoline. I could feel so many cracks in my joints, but it honestly felt more like my bones themselves were breaking. I thought they only did massages like this
Look. Why are her eyelids white?
in Japan.
I learned from the best.
It was obvious she had no intention of going easy on me, and no matter how much I tried, I couldn't get used to it, let alone enjoy it. When she started walking on my neck and cutting off my windpipe, I couldn't take it anymore. I broke free and sprang up from the table. Okay, Geezer, that's enough! Are you trying to kill me?
You said deep tissue, so I'm getting the deep tissue. What did you expect?
I don't know. I've never done this before. Why doesn't anybody explain this stuff? All I want is something nice and relaxing that's going to ease the pain in my back, not make it worse. Jeez, how is anybody supposed to enjoy that? Suddenly, the old lady looked really hurt by what I said. In that moment, I regretted yelling at her. I hadn't meant to make her feel bad. It was just the whole thing was turning out to be way more stressful than it should have been. Hey, I'm sorry. I'm just confused. I ordered the wrong thing is all.
No, you're okay. I'm sorry there was a misunderstanding. If you want something relaxing, I also specialize in a mud bathing treatment.
I was skeptical at first, but she was very thorough with her description of how a simple scrub of special mud all over my skin would exfoliate my pores and permeate natural analgesics all throughout my body. It was supposed to be relaxing and pain relieving and revitalizing and, well, the way she put it made it sound...
Look. She is so freaking fat. I ain't trying to be rude, Granny, but why would be looking at him like that? What is he looking at? What are you looking at? He said something. What are you looking at? And her teeth are like something.
Very much worth getting covered in mud. I went ahead and agreed. She had me lay down on my back, then put 2 slices of cucumbers over my eyes and told me to breathe deep and
Why is she
relax.
smiling
She
like
left
that?
me alone with the ambient music for a few minutes before beginning the treatment. The first thing I noticed was that the mud felt a lot warmer than expected, like it had been sitting in the sun instead of the cool, dark place in which I had imagined it would be stored. When she started spreading it over my face, however, is when I noticed just how not right it smelled. Mud ought to smell mostly like nothing, and if anything, it should smell like the soil of the earth, but whatever it was, it smelled like a barn. It found its way up my nostrils and burned with its pungency. And then I finally realized it wasn't mud. It was unmistakably fecal matter. Fresh feces. I was in shock, but then things took a turn for the absolute worst. All of a sudden, there was a huge clump of this lumpy, disgusting crap being shoved in my mouth. This old woman was trying to cram her excrement down my throat and suffocate me. And I couldn't even open my eyes. I clawed at the cucumbers, but they were super glued on. I'd rip out my eyelids before I could get them off. The fight or flight boiled over, and I burst up from the table, shoving the old hag to the ground, and running, stumbling, colliding with every table and corner before finding my way out of the room in my blindness. Help! Someone help me, please! I can't see! Help me! From then on, I have to block out the memories, the embarrassment of all those people surrounding, seeing me in that state. Even if they were helping me, it was too much to bear. It's still too much. As for the curmudgeonly old witch that did it to me, it still baffles me to say this, but she was once again so...
Do she want to eat? Do you want to eat? Do you want to eat chocolate? But it's not chocolate. Do you want to eat poison? I think she glued it on your eyes because she don't want you to see anymore. I think that happened to her. That's why she's wearing glasses. Yeah.
Surprisingly agile. She made a run for it out the back door of the parlor, and
Here on a hair track star.
still at large after driving off in a car that's older than me. Come to think of it, I don't even know what I would charge her with, if they...
Ooh! Is that the little... So first of all, banana peel, like... Let me just go circle this stuff. What is this? I got no idea what that is. Why is there like that there? What is that? And what is this right here? Like, what is that? And what is that goopy stuff? Why is there like red stuff over there? Like, huh? Like, what is that? Like, what is that? Here, let me move my thing. Like, what is that? What is that thing right there? I don't know what it is. And what is this? What is that thing right there? Egg thing, I guess. Maybe it's egg yolk. I don't know.
Found her.
Stop using those breaking bones.
Large after driving off in a car that's older than me. Come to think of it, I don't even know what I would charge her with, if they found her.
I'm gonna make a face. Come on. Oh, yeah. I can't. Okay, I got it. La, 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 la. Okay. Eyebrows. Okay, let's go watch. Yeah. Ew.
As a woman who worked at a spa, I'm no stranger to...
Everything looks nice. What is that? Why is there like a random yellow thing right there? Why is there like yellow stuff right there? The black stuff. Maybe it's the shadow, but yeah.
The unsavory characters who try to solicit immoral acts and behave inappropriately with the employees. It seems like every woman I've ever worked with.
First of all, let's just make something new for her and not appropriate, not inappropriate, because whatever that was is very inappropriate. Like, we ain't going to be seeing that today. And the same with her too. No, we ain't looking at that. Plus there's creeps around too. We don't need them seeing that. Why her face be looking like that? Why is hers be looking like that too?
Some kind of horror story on the subject of obsessive,
Can you
misogynistic
stop
men.
please look?
And I am no
Can you
exception.
not look
And I
at
hate
that?
to say this, but what happened on my table was so awful that it ended my career as a massage and acupuncture therapist. Still,
Everything looks good. Like, I'm gonna circle everything that looks perfectly fine. Let me circle the good stuff. Like, this is good, that is good. Here, let me move my camera. That is definitely good. That's good. Like, all of that is good. Look at that. I mean, this is good. This is good. Like, these wouldn't be good because, like, you don't know. The mirror looks dirty, crusty, musty, dusty. I don't know what that is. Why is there little holes there? And first of all, her face. Her face is ugly as heck. Okay.
that is where it began. I'm not at liberty to use his real name, but I will freely use the placeholder name of Herbert, as it rather well describes both his personality and physical characteristics.
Makeup.
He was extremely old enough to be my great-grand.
What is that? I'm sorry. I feel like I'm gonna throw up. That is so creepy, bro. Like, are you pregnant? Oh, congrats, you're having a baby.
Though he probably looked older than he actually was. He had a grotesque bulging pot belly that stuck out even farther than his malformed-looking.
Yep, he's pregnant.
Jaw that was stricken with a horrible underbite. I'm sure his record-breaking deformities caused him
Why does he look
significant
like
chronic
that?
pain
Like that?
because he had weekly appointments at the spa that he never missed. Unfortunately, like a lot of creepy old men, he had picked out one woman from all the other therapists and refused to get worked on by anyone else. And in his case, I was his special gal. What's worse, he seemed to self-medicate his pain with alcohol, as he was always, and I mean always, under the influence. This is supposed to be against the rules, but considering people with obvious dependencies, we usually allow them to do whatever they need in order to sit still. Unfortunately, this meant I had to constantly deal with the stench of booze that always emanated from his body.
Bella, where the hell have you been, Loca?
I brought you something.
Oh, shut up.
As you can see, we make a lot of accommodations. We also have a jacuzzi that is openly available to all of our clients. However, to some, it seems to be an invitation to forego any respect for privacy or modesty. In Herbert's case, he would spend 20 minutes in the tub before every session, wearing this tiny worn-out Speedo that he's probably had since the 60s. He would always wait until the last minute, then come in for a session right after his soak. He always wanted to start with a full-body massage. I don't know what it was exactly, but something about that wet, rubbery, wrinkly skin always felt like I was massaging a dead body, except it could talk and request to be pleasured. I would always refuse, but he would never get the message.
You people never seem to understand the request of a full-body massage.
What has he been eating? there is red stuff. Like, all of that. What has been eaten? I'm sorry.
I always have to go home and finish the job myself. Does that seem right to you?
Come on, Herbert. I don't want to hear that right now.
Well, you wouldn't have to hear it if you didn't leave the need unsatisfied. What do you say?
For the millionth time, the answer is no. Just relax, will you?
As with any story of a spa professional dealing with inappropriate behavior, outside perspectives probably wonder why we put up with it all. Well, the answer is commission and tips. In other words, money. The nastiest, most make-you-crawl out of your skin customers are the ones who think that going for the most expensive option is how they're going to get what they want. Of course, that isn't how it works, but we let them shell out until they realize that. Herbert always wanted acupuncture after his massages. Acupuncture is a delicate, time-consuming process, and it requires a lot of experience, intuition, and patience. This makes it a big moneymaker for spas, in case you didn't know. The longer it goes on for, the more needles are used, the higher the price becomes. And I've never seen anyone take as many needles as Herbert. At a certain point, every single actual acupuncture point would be covered in needles, but Herbert would just keep asking for more. I knew it was risky, but every acupuncture patient signs a waiver freeing us of any liability. So by the policy of the establishment, we fulfill every request we reasonably can. Eventually, he'd be covered head to toe, every square inch of his body protruding with needles, probably 1,000 of them. But even then, he would still be getting up to his usual antics.
You know, you've poked me so many times. Will I ever get a chance to poke you back?
You know you'll never get the chance, so can you stop asking?
Oh, you're so mean. I'll convince you someday.
As bad as it was, at a certain point I had the whole ordeal worked into my routine, and I was making bank off it. However, one night, it all came to an end. He had come in drunker than ever before, going farther than he ever had before. He even reached out and tried to grab me at one point during the massage, but I slapped his hand away. I almost kicked him out for it. I should have, but some part of me was so desensitized that I hardly cared after the moment passed. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, just a stronger stench of booze and a bit more of an unhinged attitude. We went through the whole routine, and once I was done using just about every acupuncture needle in the entire spa, I left him at the table to wash my hands. A precautionary step in between the application and removal of the needles that helps to prevent infection.
All right, Herbert, I'm going to give you a few minutes to let everything soak in. I'll just be over here cleaning some things up. Don't move, okay?
Oh, don't worry about me moving, Missy. I'm as stiff as a ball.
I'm sure you are, Herbert. I'm sure you are.
However, even over the sound of the faucet, I could hear the rubbing of skin against the rubber of the table. I knew he was moving, but at first, I figured he was just adjusting himself to get more comfortable.
A modern-day woman sure is a sight to behold.
Excuse me?
I turned around, ready to scold him, but in the process, I startled him. He was far closer to the edge than he should have been, and when he jolted at getting caught, he stabbed himself in the side with a needle, causing him to wince and squirm and suddenly lose his balance on his elbow. And then, he fell off the table and smacked the floor face down, digging every needle into his body. Acupuncture needles are long, thin, and very hard. They can easily dig through several inches of flesh and find their way between small gaps in the bones if used improperly. But in the case of an accident like this, it was worse than imaginable. I screamed for help and instinctively ran over and knelt beside him. In a panic, I turned him over, trying to take the pressure off the needles. I've been told since by medical professionals that this was probably the wrong thing to do, as it shifted the placement of the needles inside his body, twisting and dragging him, causing them to tear the tissues and worsen the bleeding. And bleed he did, like wringing out a sponge full of red.
Somebody!
I might be going rock climbing today. I'll make another video on that, but right now, we're just gonna be watching this.
Call the cops! We need an ambulance!
No matter how fast the paramedics could have arrived, I don't think it would have been fast enough. The needles were everywhere in his body, in his heart, and in his lungs. There wasn't a chance. He bled out so quickly, right before my eyes. I watched the life leave from his face. Since then, I've quit massage therapy, and I can't imagine ever returning to perform acupuncture. Despite how gross Herbert's treatment of me was, I still feel guilty for being the one who put the needles in his body. I'm not sure if this is really lucky for me or not, but since he didn't have any family or next of kin who cared for him, I was never sued for anything relating to the incident. But if I ever was, I don't know if I'd fare well in court.
Stop doing that thing. I'm breaking the box. Ooh. First of all, why are you putting people's toes in the background? I mean, look at that. What is that? Wait. Ooh. That's disgusting.
Most of my customers would come here for one purpose: to relinquish importunate
Come on, why do you
woes
always have to let
constantly
it happen?
haunting them after a rough day. So, one day, I noticed a bizarre middle-aged woman staring through the glass window of our spa, drooling like a
Excuse me?
maniac. At first, I thought she might have been a homeless person wandering around, so when she set foot in my domain, I instantly barred her from advancing with the help of our security guard. As expected, it set her off ranting about human rights.
God.
Then, as she approached the receptionist, she threw the money across the table and desecrated our hallowed grounds by taking a seat on one of our comfy chairs. Impatient, she said,
Excuse me? Is there any staff on duty? I can't wait here forever, you know.
Seeing how
can't.
she frightened the other customers, I briskly walked towards her and said,
Hello, ma'am. You wanted a foot spa?
She didn't respond. Instead, she left me with an icy stare and the constant twitching of her lips, which made her look hilarious. During the ongoing service, I couldn't help but notice her nasty teeth, yellowish in color, filled with leftover meat and green leafy vegetables stuck in between. And if that wasn't enough, I simply couldn't stand her breath's repulsive odor, overcoming the lavender-scented humidifier next to us. Then, rubbing her feet with essential oils, my hands protested against the rough, scaly edges of her skin, and a slimy substance flowing from her pores, which appeared to be pus. She must have noticed because she struck me with her phone and said,
Do you have a problem with my feet, miss?
I decided
Duh.
to apologize and focus on getting the job done. So, upon cleaning her nails and giving her a foot massage, I pampered these pitiful feet by gently laying them in a detox foot spa machine. As she sat back and relaxed, she left happy with her experience. However, I hoped she would cease to return. So, when she dropped by the following day and asked me for specifically to conduct the same service, I was utterly disappointed. Every day, the woman would smile to reveal such awful teeth, and with countless acne growing on her face day by day, it only made it harder for me to look at her. Unfortunately, she
Ew.
wasn't only ugly on the outside, she was also terrible on the inside. She'd regularly gossip about her colleagues' promotion and talk behind her back. Then, when the woman felt like I wasn't paying attention to her rants, she would hit me with her phone or the magazine, making me the laughingstock of the entire parlor. I've always wanted to be the apple of the eye, but not this way. This freak of nature was ruining my reputation, and I was determined to save whatever dignity I had left in this job. So, when the same customer dropped by again, I recommended a different type of service, which allowed me to apply other ingredients. When I explained the benefits to her, she was instantly enthralled. In the days that followed, her foot condition only worsened, despite all the treatment she was receiving. So naturally, this made her furious. As she sat, waiting for me to approach her, I could see fungi engulfing her feet, which came in the form of sores and blisters that would burst, creating golden brown patches like cereals glued to her skin. The fungal bacteria, which reminded me of a skin infection called bullous impetigo, appeared to be crawling from her feet to her legs, giving her the appearance of a zombie. This time, her attitude was more revolting, and her scent was now unbearable. She threw a glass of water at me and asked in a condescending tone,
Why are you wearing a face mask? You never wore that before. Take that off.
I clenched my fists, trying to control my temper.
What right do you have in deciding what I choose to wear?
She laughed like a madwoman and said,
You got some nerve, girl. I'll give you that.
Then, she leaned closer, the stench of her breath even more prominent.
But I can make you go viral. and your boss will certainly fire you.
Since none of us were allowed to reject customers' requests, especially from a regular like her, I continued to provide her my services. When I sat to massage her feet, she made a forward gesture and reached out for my mask.
I told you to take that off, didn't I?
Not a moment too soon, she yanked it off and added,
See? Now that's much better.
I let her off the hook, plotting an idea to end this nightmare. However, none came to mind. Then, when she entered through those doors again the following day, I noticed it was just her and me.
Oh, perfect.
I initially told myself. However, as she sat on her favorite chair while I prepared the peppermint, Epsom salt, rosemary, and other entities for her feet tub, something hit me hard at that moment.
Wait a minute. That's it. It's just her and I.
I contemplated. I admit it was a dangerous thought, but somehow it made me feel a lot better. Then, moments later, the odious woman called out to me and said,
Check out these deals at Walgreens.
Do that.
Can't this service get any slower? I'm surprised the owner let you work here in the first place.
I'm sorry.
was all I said. Then, with a smile, I added,
I've done a bit more research, and I think I know what can make all that fungi go away.
A conundrum filled her eyes as she scrutinized me, wondering why I was incredibly calm and cheery.
Did your husband finally make it past a minute? You don't seem like your usual self today.
Whatever do you mean? What's wrong with being happy?
I said, my smile bigger than ever. We did the whole routine, of course. Then, as the minutes passed, she began to sweat profusely, followed by complaints.
Hey, miss, are you sure this is going to work? Why does it feel like my feet are burning?
That's a good sign, ma'am. It means the treatment is finally working.
Then, moments later, she began to scream, and when she attempted to remove her feet from the tub, I advanced forward, holding her legs in place.
You lunatic! What do you think you're doing?
We haven't finished your treatment yet, so just wait a little longer.
I replied, as I felt my power grow. Soon, burning sensations turned to severe pain, causing the customer to spasm until the tub was filled with her own blood. When she finally passed out, I dragged her body to the back alley, where the contents of her feet were visibly deteriorated, and was left with nothing but flesh and bone. I could tell that she was a goner from the overwhelming pain she must have endured. I threw her remains in a dumpster along with what was left of her feet, which was nothing but blood and liquid cartilage from the acid I included in the mix. Till this day, no one knows about my 5-star service. And now that I've been promoted as manager, I'd make sure that we'd never encounter a customer like that again. I thought they only did massages like this in Japan.
I learned from the best.
Dang.
There's no place like
You
Oz,
might
and
be
there's no
watching
show
quite a lot.
like Wicked.
But yeah.
Wicked, the original Broadway blockbuster.
I work as a barista, but I've been growing a following on TikTok. I've recently passed 50,000 followers. I know it's nothing compared to some of the biggest creators on TikTok with tens of millions of followers, but for me, it's a huge deal. One day, I hope I can quit the coffee shop and be a full-time content creator. The only real drag about being a TikToker are the creeps. I've always attracted my fair share of thirsty weirdos on the internet, but ever since I've been trying to do TikTok, it's been a million times worse. Every time I post a video, 80% of the comments are well-meaning, but then the other 20% are nauseating remarks about my body and disgusting things people want to see done to me. All these creeps are telling me to get an OnlyFans, but I haven't. It always happens out of the corner of my eye, and I can't go.
I'm sorry, I accidentally.
I work as a barista, but I've been growing a following on TikTok. I've recently passed 50,000 followers. I know it's nothing compared to some of the biggest creators on TikTok with tens of millions of followers. I work as a barista, but I've been growing a following on TikTok. I've recently passed 50,000 followers. I know it's nothing compared to some of the biggest creators on TikTok with tens of millions of followers, but for me, it's a huge deal. One day, I hope I can quit the coffee shop and be a full-time content creator. The only real drag about being a TikToker are the creeps. I've always attracted my fair share of thirsty weirdos on the internet, but ever since I've been trying to do TikTok, it's been a million times worse. Every time I post a video, 80% of the comments are well-meaning, but then the other 20% are nauseating remarks about my body and disgusting things people want to see done to me. All these creeps are telling me to get an OnlyFans, but I have no intention of ever doing that. Unfortunately, I feel like I have to leave those comments up, and I can't block those people because I need the engagement on my profile. I thought I'd get used to it, but they've only been getting harder to ignore. They've all started messaging me because I ignore their comments. At best, they're asking to take me out on a date, but at worst, they're basically threatening to make me the star of their own personal snuff film. As creepy and unnerving as it is, I know 99.9% of them are all talk. However, it's been getting even weirder than that. I've been doing a lot of live streams recently, during which I always have the same window in the background when I prop my phone up on my desk. And I've been seeing something weird in it while I'm filming. It always happens out of the corner of my eye, and I can't go back to see if it was really there. But I keep seeing a green dot flash on the curtain, like a taser pointer is shining through my window. I always assumed it's just some dumb kids in the neighborhoods messing around, but it felt weird to me that it would only happen when I was live streaming. Then, I noticed that I've been getting attention from a particularly persistent creep. I'll just call him Richard. He comments on every single one of my videos, then messages me minutes later. For a while, it was always the same stuff like, "I love you. I need you. I want to give you a big tip at your job." I talk about being a barista on my page sometimes, but I've never mentioned where I live or work. Yet somehow, Richard knew the exact coffee shop I worked at. Richard even said he knew where I lived, but as I looked through his profile, he didn't have any posts, so I assumed he was just another troll. Then one day, Richard took it a step further. He sent me the exact street address, even my apartment number. Not only did he have that, but he also knew the make, model, and year of my car, as well as the license plate. He was even threatening to steal mail out of my mailbox. But that's when I realized he had already been doing that for days. As it had been suspiciously empty, the threats just continued to ramp up, with him saying that if I wasn't going to be with him, he was going to do something to me. I could no longer ignore this Richard freak anymore. He was an actual psycho, and I couldn't stop thinking about him breaking into my apartment at night, or ambushing me in my car. I couldn't sleep. I just kept looking out my window, trying to see if I could spot him, but he was never there. I didn't want to block him, as I didn't want to give him any more reason to do something else. And I wanted to be able to show all of his info to the cops. All I needed to do was make it through the night, so I didn't have to go to the police station in the dark. However, when I stepped outside to go there the next morning, I was met with a terrifying scene. All the windows on my car had been smashed. Every single one was totally broken through. I called the police right then and there to report it, but when they came, they said there wasn't anything they could do. Frustrated, I took matters into my own hands. I swept the glass out of my car, then I took it to an auto glass shop. I got the car fixed, and immediately got a security camera. I eventually set up the camera to point right at where I parked my car. About 2 days later, I came out to the exact same situation. All the windows of my car were broken, but this time, my license plate was also gone. I immediately checked the camera where I saw footage of a man driving up to my car, getting out and smashing all the windows, ripping off my license plate, then driving off. I was able to read the license plate of the culprit's car in the video and gave the information to the cops. About a week or so later, the cops arrested a man named Richard Newman. It was revealed that he had been stalking me through TikTok and had become absolutely obsessed with me. It turns out that he lived in the same city as me and took advantage of it. What's even more alarming was how he was the one shining lasers through my window during my live streams. Ever since then, I've been scared to live in my own home. I'm scared of continuing making TikToks, fearing him or someone else will